and welcome to another edition of the Talking City podcast with myself, Alex James, and Chief City writer Simon Bajkowski. And we are speaking to you on transfer deadline day. We'll get to all the fun and the fair of the transfer window in a little while, but we have to begin with what happened yesterday, Simon, at the Emirates.
Do we? Do we have to just skip to the transfers where they don't
Well, I
sign
was going to
anyone?
begin with this lovely studio actually, because it's my first time in the studio.
Yeah.
Sort of getting half attacked by this plant, but it's lovely
Which
bit
is
of
nice.
lovely bit of
Feels
decoration.
like Centre Parks, doesn't it?
Very feng shui and stuff. So, but we'll move from feng shui to football. There's a seamless segue for you, and just sort of have a little bit of a debrief, as I'm sure Pep and City will be having had in the dressing room after the game, and for a few days to come on just what went wrong yesterday. And I suppose where to start really is maybe that third goal of the game, the second Arsenal goal, which just felt like the wind went out of City's sails. It sort of sucker punched from that instant equaliser from Haaland, and then there was just another collapse, which we've seen far too often this season.
Yeah. Unacceptable was the word from John Stones. Unacceptable was the word that Pep Guardiola agreed with. And that was the last. It was sort of minutes 1 to 10 and minutes 55 to 90, essentially. So 45 minutes where they were just nowhere near the level good enough. And they did so well from minutes 10 to 55 to get themselves back into a position where not only were they in the game and level in the game, but they had the momentum.
Yeah.
And like Haaland had worked so hard, gets his goal, and they just throw it away. And like it's poor from Foden. Like I saw a few replays of Sky, but obviously we're watching it live, so we don't sort of get to hear what's being said. And it seemed like they were sort of maybe pointing out the ref was in the way.
Yeah, I think that would be a bit of a stretch.
Exactly. Yeah, there's no excuse. And Pep said like it was the right idea, just the wrong execution. But then no one's closing Party down. The deflection is a bit of luck. And I think, you can see that would set you back. But what you can't do, and what Guardiola was really furious about, and I've not really heard him have a go at the players like he did on Sunday, was it all went out the window,
Yeah.
the whole plan. Yeah. And rather than saying, oh my God, how unlucky we've been to, throw away this situation again, let's work for the next 35 minutes to try and get back again. It just went to pot and Arsenal just ran riot through City, and it was ugly.
The game management was non-existent.
Game management was awful for it was awful at PSG. It was awful. It's been awful at Brentford far too many times this season. It's just been terrible because they haven't been terrible from minutes 1 to 90, but in important moments, they make the wrong decisions and then they react badly to it and they get battered.
Because I think if you probably paused the game at 1-1,
yeah,
and conducted a little poll of whoever you were watching the game with,
yeah,
at least 50%, if not more, would say City can go on and win this from here.
Absolutely. And it felt like, in many ways, like the game 2 seasons ago at the Emirates when City rode their luck. They had Bernardo Silva at left back and Arsenal equalised and were on top. And then City worked their way through and came away with a 3-1 win. And that was a mature performance. And in the way that yesterday was not, it was schoolboy stuff yet again.
The fragility is, I can't think of a better word for it really, that the mentality, the fragility, whatever it is, the confidence that just seems that when the pressure is on at the moment,
yeah,
that they haven't got. But I don't know what it is though, and I'm not sure Guardiola does either. Otherwise, he probably would have solved it. But
no, I was trying to think about it on the way back, and I was like, is it like a confidence thing where it's sort of like they collapse mentally, and that means they are really easy to run through? Or is it just they keep making the same stupid mistakes that, like, see Mateo Kovacic with the ball in the Arsenal half, and I think City are attacking here, but he's got to be careful. I see him blast a pass that is far too heavy for a teammate, and then 5 seconds later it's 4-1 Arsenal. Because as soon as Kovacic doesn't get that pass right, the ball's going to come past him twice as fast. and so do Arsenal. And like that is the, is that a team collapsing, or is that just a team that is bad? That a team that is bad enough that the opposition just knows how to score a goal past again and again and again.
It's like the first goal. Everyone knew Arsenal were going to come out like they did.
Yeah.
That was a surprise to absolutely nobody who would have seen Arsenal play, especially with Odegaard back in the team.
Yeah.
And yet they were so. I mean, and they missed Edison, didn't they? They missed Edison because the ability to go long
Yeah.
to Haaland
It is.
wasn't there. But they were so ponderous in those first
Yeah.
5 minutes.
I mean, Edison has his critics, but you feel like he very rarely plays teammates into trouble. Um, Sometimes he's rash, sometimes he comes out and flies out of his goal, but he usually knows when to play a ball in a delicate situation and when not to. I'm not saying Ortega shouldn't have passed it to Stones, but it was like you say, it was ponderous, and it was sort of like, oh, this is my last option. I'm
Yeah,
just going to give it
yeah.
to him. And then Stones was like, I don't really know what to do with it, so I'm just going to give it to Akanji. And it wasn't a great pass. And then it was even worse from Akanji. And yeah, I mean, I said it was the worst goal of the season they've conceded, and then someone reminded me about Chelsea last week and Kusanov. But I think that's worse because Ortega, Stones, and Akanji, three experienced players. Stones one of the best players in the league when he's
Yeah,
when
when
he's
it's
on it.
yeah.
Akanji has been amazing for City for a long time, less so this season. But like, it's unacceptable.
That's
It's
3 senior players making 3
yeah,
bad decisions, isn't it? Kusanov,
yeah, yeah.
debut, first minute,
Yeah.
nervous, doesn't speak the language, not quite sure who's where, what the positioning is.
And it's in the opening minutes as well. And it's like we say about when you get to 1-1 and then you throw it away. Like Pep said afterwards, like if you get to 1-1 and then if you tell me in the 15 to 20 minutes afterwards that like things are difficult, then fine. But it cannot be 2-1 within a minute
Yeah.
of scoring to make it 1-1. So just yeah, players who should know better and should do better, really.
It's like the England cricket team. You just feel like, oh,
Yeah.
they were 10 for 2 and we've rebuilt a little bit and then
Yeah.
out,
Yeah.
rip through
Yeah.
the middle order and away we go again. It's the same kind of
Yeah. And it's
sporting analogy.
yesterday was one of those occasions where you're like, it's bad before they even started because Edison's out. You're missing 6 players. You're missing Edison, Rodri, Doku, Oscar Bob, Diaz, and Ake. Right? Diaz, Ake, Edison could all make the starting 11. Doku possibly.
Rodri definitely.
Rodri definitely. So you are missing players undoubtedly. So you're not at your strongest, but just because you're not at your strongest, that doesn't excuse Akanji or Stones or Ortega or Foden playing that ball at 1-1. And also, I feel like one of the reasons why Foden played that ball at 1-1, and not to excuse him again, but there were times when Foden took a ridiculously difficult route in that game on the ball because the easy ball was to Mateus Nunes. And he started off passing it to Nunes, and then Nunes was so bad and got the ball turned over and put past him so quickly that it was like Foden lost confidence in Nunes and didn't want to pass him the ball. And it's like, how
We're in this situation of
yeah,
a 4-time defending
you've
Premier
gone
League
from a
champions
team when
where-
everyone wants the ball and everyone can do something with it to sort of no one's using it properly. And Arsenal couldn't believe the luck, really.
Yeah. It's the Nunes. I mean, I know Rico Lewis was was used
Yeah.
far too often, and I know Rico Lewis has got his faults at right back, but to persist with Nunes seems slightly odd to me. And if
Yeah.
I'm Real Madrid or Liverpool or even Spurs, given how they often
Yeah.
come to the party against City,
Yeah.
all those teams have got exceptional left-sided attacking players who are going to be licking their lips at the prospect of Nunes being at right back in a City
Yeah.
team devoid of confidence. Like, it seems bizarre to persist with it when it hasn't worked. When I know Rico Lewis isn't.
I
He's
feel
not
sorry
like that.
for Lewis.
I do as
I
well.
feel sorry
I do
for
as
Lewis.
well.
And I
And he's
also
19, I think, isn't he? Or
yeah,
just
and I'm not sure how many games he's actually played and finished at right back. Like he did at the start of the season, but then it was all about trying to get Walker in and fit, and like the number of times Lewis would go from right back to left back or left back to right back or into the midfield. And I know he wants to be fluid with his positioning, but like if you're getting rid of Walker, you need to say, look, we've got right backs. These are going to be our right backs for the season. And you might want it to be Stones or Akanji or Kusanov, but you can't have that situation when so many of your central defenders aren't fit.
Yeah, yeah.
And in that situation, however much Lewis has been burnt out and his confidence has just been shredded, you sort of think, is he still a worse right back than someone who is now in the position that Walker is in, where they're basically contributing to opposition goals
You
in
feel like
pretty much every
you
match?
feel like the confidence of Lewis has been drained by not playing him, and the confidence of Nunes has been drained by playing him
Well,
to
yeah,
a degree.
yeah. Although I don't know whether he is low on confidence or what, but he's struggling like everyone else. And yeah, it's a really worrying sign when your teammates don't want to pass you the ball, and you are a seasoned he's a
Yeah,
Portugal
international
international.
footballer. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Who was 50 odd million,
yeah,
and nobody at the time thought. Well, maybe a couple of people thought that's slightly over the odds, but nobody was thinking, "Oh, that's a terrible signing. We shouldn't
yeah,
have made that one."
yeah, yeah. But they are now.
The curse of the Rodri
Yeah,
standing, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel like I might be able to wind you up and let you go now with a bit of discussion about Haaland and Arsenal and celebrations and uh, wind up merchants, etc. There's been a lot
Mm,
made of Haaland, I think, touching the ball once after his goal or three times in the first half. I can't remember
yeah.
the exact numbers now.
I'm so bored of that. It's lazy. It's rubbish. I hate it.
And I think you wrote in your piece that his currency is goals. And
Yeah, yeah. I can't imagine watching that game and thinking, I know what we need to do. An analysis on, does Erling Haaland contribute to this City team? Imagine watching City getting railroaded, the whole defensive midfield just ploughed through again and again, and thinking, I don't know if Erling Haaland's touched the ball enough. Like, it's amateur, it's embarrassing, and anyone doing it should just think again. I thought Haaland played really well against, let us not forget, some of the best centre backs in the world. Everyone raves about this Gabriel Saliba partnership. They've been terrific for Arsenal. I couldn't believe what I was hearing when Micah Richards was talking about Haaland not being aggressive. Like,
yeah,
he gave away so many fouls because he was trying to get all over either of them. And he he did, and he gave away some fouls, and he didn't do loads. He didn't get loads of service, but he scored a header, and
and
he
he was
scored a
aggressive
really good
there. And he was
header.
aggressive
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. And it was one of those where he said, "I'm getting this, you're not," and I'm planting it past the goalkeeper, who had an excellent game as well. So it was no sort of sure thing that he was going to do it. I thought he was one of City's best players, um, and in no way was he sort of anywhere near City's list of problems.
Yeah, issues to solve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like he's got 25 goals this season.
Well, exactly. And also him dropping in. I mean, how often do you hear it with England and Harry Kane? Or Harry Kane needs to get out of these spaces. We've got all these creative
Yeah,
players
yeah,
in there. Like
yeah.
him dropping in doesn't add anything to. I mean, he might touch the ball
No,
50 times in a game then, but
yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
misses the point of what Guardiola's trying to do with his system and his setup.
yeah. Like 25 goals. I tweeted at the time, like, not very humble of him, and then someone replied after the game and was like, "Oh, this came back to haunt you." It's like, no, no, he's still got 25 goals. He will still get 40 plus goals this season, and possibly the Golden Boot, although Salah's playing out of his skin. But like, he is still a phenomenal player. He's one of the best players anyone will ever see in their lifetime. And, Arsenal were properly motivated
You can say
against
that
him. The
again.
whole team, the whole fans, like, if that motivates Miles Lewis Skelly, then fantastic for him. But it felt the whole stay humble thing has been kind of to Arsenal what welcome to Manchester has been for United.
Yeah.
They don't understand the premise of it. And if it motivates them, fine, but it's currently motivating them to 6 points behind Liverpool, having played a game more.
And it was draped in irony when they put humble on at the
Yeah.
end of the game, completely missing the
But
dictionary definition of
even
the word
like
humble.
Lewis Skelly is like, really? Like that was basically Pep after the game when he got told about it or was asked about it. He was like, "Are you really doing this? Have you really done this?" Like, Arsenal are allowed to enjoy the win. They have to enjoy beating a team who have given them
100%, yeah.
so much misery. But the way they have chosen to celebrate leaves them open to others taking the mick out of them. Like, it is very possible that this season City will win more trophies than Arsenal, because City have already won the Community Shield, could win the Club World Cup. Arsenal aren't in that. They weren't in the Community Shield. Doesn't look like they're going to win the Premier League.
They're not in the FA Cup.
They're not in the FA Cup anymore. They're 2-0 behind Newcastle in the Carabao Cup. So you're talking about, a team that is going trophyless, like mimicking one of the best teams England's ever seen. It's a choice.
Yeah.
And, Haaland's dad kind of took exception to it after the game. Haaland was very funny throughout, really, sort of talking with Gabriel, pointing to the Premier League winners badge, saying, I bet he'd love to have this. Went over to the City fans at the end of the game, pointing to the badge again. Like, he gets it. And as difficult a season as City are having, it's a hell of a lot easier to swallow for them because they have won everything. Whereas I think it's a really difficult season for Arsenal because they haven't won anything and their biggest rivals are having a terrible season and it still doesn't look like they're going to win anything.
It's a bit like when Arsenal didn't win the league when Leicester won it.
Yeah.
Like, this is your season. And nobody thought Liverpool were going to be as good as they are under Slot. And most people thought that was going to be a transitional season. Liverpool have been fantastic.
Yeah.
Can't take anything away from
well,
that.
the 2-2 back in September between City and Arsenal was like, these are the two title contenders, because why would you not think that? And now it doesn't look like anyone's catching Liverpool.
Roll on a City Arsenal Champions League tie. That's what I say. Humble pie all round.
That'd be great. It wouldn't be horrible, but it'd be
be good for the neutral.
Yeah.
Right, we'll take a quick little break there, and when we come back, we will dive into deadline day and all the deals that may, or perhaps more likely, may not happen over the next few hours. Welcome back to the Talking City podcast. We're about to go transfer talking. We've got the Chief City writer Simon Bajkowski alongside me. We've got, I'm not sure what the live time is here, but probably under 12 hours to go until
12 hours. Yeah.
Thankfully, the window shuts for another few months and we can all rest easy and turn our phones off when we're not working. But just sort of give us a brief kind of overall view of sort of where City may or may not go between now and 11 p.m. side, if you can.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the window so far. I mean, it's been interesting, been exciting.
It's definitely been different from a City perspective to almost what you kind of expect in January. You almost know that nothing's going to happen, whereas now you're not quite sure.
Bouncing around a soft play on your day off and getting a message saying they're signing an Uzbekistan defender. You think,
and you haven't even got your.
No, I don't know. I just like the soft play so much. Knew it was coming, still good. Yes, more important things. Manchester City, they're trying to get a deal for Nico Gonzalez done, who is a midfielder who will help with their midfield, which has kind of been the root of all their issues this season. Don't know whether it will get done because they're sort of haggling over money. They still have this thing where he has a 60 million euro release clause. They don't want to pay all of that. They're sort of talking. I mean, Porto must have been watching yesterday and just thinking,
chuck another. Well, not chuck another zero on because he got a release clause.
Pay the release clause if you want him, or you will continue to get humiliated for the next month or so, I think will be the Porto message. They're trying to get it done, but they are still trying to sort of hammer out a compromise that will see them pay a bit less than that release clause.
Is that a move that they maybe would have looked at in the summer? He's obviously not going to. They're not going to have sat down yesterday and thought we need a midfielder. He looks quite good. Let's sign him. He's going to be a player that they'll have been aware of. But
he'll have been on a list. I don't think he'll have been at the top of the list. I think like Edison from Atalanta is very high, if not top of the list. And that is a problem because City have got their midfield recruitment wrong since 2022. They signed Phillips, they signed Kovacic, they've signed Nunes. I think you could argue Kovacic has been a partial success, but sort of like
Kovacic has probably done what you would expect
he-
from
yeah,
Kovacic.
he's done okay, but he's a squad player,
Exactly,
and
yeah,
he can't.
exactly.
He has said he can't play alone as a six,
And
and
you can't
so
rely on him
he's been exposed as
in
a six
30
this
games, which
season.
they're having
Yeah,
to do.
yeah, and the same with Gundogan. So Gundogan is the fourth midfielder they bought in the last 3 years, and none of them have done what they were expected to do, for different reasons. So they have to get it right. And if you want to get it right, you say, right, well, let's wait until we can get
Yeah, plan
our
A.
best pick,
Yeah,
and the best time for getting Edison out of Atalanta is in the summer. Um, however,
needs
when
must
needs
or
must, and what
possibly must.
yeah, and when you're getting beat by Arsenal 5-1 and things like that, and your only competitive match before Real Madrid is Leyton Orient away, you sort of think maybe we need to do so. Sort of City didn't sign a Vincent Company replacement in 2019 because they wouldn't pay the money for Harry Maguire. And then in 2020, they dithered and dithered and dithered. And Koulibaly was on the list. Jimenez was on the list, I think. And Ruben Diaz was on the list. And they weren't signing anyone. And then similarly,
Yeah, the
they
Leicester
were 1-0 up
situation.
against Leicester. And then they ended up losing 5-2 at home. And 2 days later, Ruben Diaz arrived for a club record fee. So that felt like the Leicester defeat was like, enough. We just need to sign a defender now. And it was slightly helped because Benfica had gone out of the Champions League, so Diaz could leave for a slightly lower fee. But the premise was still enough. And City hate being reactive, and they
Yeah,
hate overreacting to one game and things like that. But even, Guardiola spoke on Friday about Rodri, and Rodri saying that he wants to return this season. And Guardiola was really like, what's the point?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'd rather you didn't. Like, what are you coming back for? Because we won't be in anything important. So, like, just rest. And that kind of felt like telling that he sort of, would like a bit more midfield. He doesn't want to count on Rodri because the whole thing of like not signing Zubimendi and not going for Bruno Guimaraes is like, oh, we don't want someone who'd be like just like Rodri, and because what are they going to do when Rodri
Yeah,
comes
well, yeah,
back?
yeah.
And Pep was kind of saying, well, I'm not planning to have him all season, so like these are our midfield options, and they're being overrun whenever they play a good team.
Does feel like City, for all the sort of cash in the bank they've built up, can probably just go, do you know what? And I know this is almost sounds ridiculous, but let's just pay the 60 million, get him in the building,
Yeah,
and take the hit on this particular transfer at this particular time in where City are and where they are as a squad. And I'm not sure, I can't remember how old Gonzalez is. He's mid-20s, I think, isn't he? So
yeah,
he'll be around for a while. There's a bit of resale value there.
yeah. And also, you can always blame it on the outgoing guy. You can say, "Look, Cheeky decided to pay that." Like, my name's Hugo Viana, and I'm going to run a tighter ship. You can always do that, but I think they just have to get it get it done. Really, um,
Is Yeah, I'm of the same opinion. I think, like you said, that Leicester comparison with Diaz is
yeah,
scarily similar,
yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah,
And I mean, I can't say I've watched loads of Nico Gonzalez play, and I couldn't tell you if he's going to be a significant upgrade on Kovacic or if he's going to
yeah,
take a bit of time to hit the ground running. But you don't come through the midfield at Barcelona without being a reasonably technically gifted footballer. So he's
yeah.
going to add something. Um, and 20, 25, 60 million starting midfielder for a top four Premier League team doesn't feel
We
doesn't strike me as bad. But I get what you're
no,
saying. I think it is reactive.
yeah, but I think something like that would be. Would it feel like something? Well, it would because it wouldn't happen. I was going to say like Douglas Luiz would be an option for 6 months for loan, but Juventus don't want to just loan him out without an obligation to buy. So kind of like that might be better, but if that deal isn't going to happen, then it's a pointless comparison. So
Well, it's like Edison would be better,
yeah,
wouldn't it?
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. I he would just offer legs, and I think we've seen, even though he hasn't done loads in the first two games, that Marmoush has kind of livened things up in attack, and even just like City just felt more natural with him central, Foden able to play wide coming in,
Yeah.
wide right coming in. And you have Savinho or Grealish or whoever on Doku on the left. And it just feels a more natural fit for the attack. So I think with Gonzalez in there, it would just give the midfield something that they haven't got.
Where does your friend Mr. McAtee sit at this position and transfer deadline day? Is he banging Pep's door down saying, "Come on, either play me or let me go"?
Yeah, I mean he came on, didn't he, in the final moments of their
Yeah, which is
well, the last 20
which is
minutes
all well
against
and good,
Arsenal,
but
yeah. Yeah. He came on when they were getting battered against PSG, and he came on when they were getting battered against um, Arsenal. I'm not sure he goes anywhere really, which is will be interesting. They don't have the room to send him on loan
yeah,
in
it's the
Europe
Bundesliga, yeah.
because they filled all their international loans. And maybe that was unexpected because you're not expecting Kyle Walker to decide he wants to leave in the middle of the season. And yeah, they don't tend to like players leaving on loan anyway. I think they were going to loan Cole Palmer, and then when Palmer sort of worked himself into a position where he thought, right, well, if you sign in Doku, then maybe I do want to leave. Then they said, oh well, it's permanent or nothing. Like, so it's going to be difficult for him. So I think we might see might I say we might see him start against Leighton Orient, but like I say, the last competitive game before Real, maybe you want a team that will start against Real to make a difference. But McAtee is someone who will, who could offer legs in midfield, but just hasn't been trusted. Nico O'Reilly is another who, like, Chelsea came in for him last month, and I thought it was interesting that the answer wasn't no. It was no if we can't have a buyback. This is a youngster that Pep cannot talk highly enough
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
And has tried to play him in loads of different positions, but has barely played him. But he played at Salford in the FA Cup. He was one of the best players on the pitch, and just surprising to me that the best players coming through at City, there doesn't seem to be not only a path for them but a plan
Yeah, that's
necessarily.
I suppose it's because we've just been talking about get some legs in midfield, and there's two examples of
Yeah,
legs in midfield, and
yeah.
we've just seen City battered at Arsenal
Mm.
with 2 goals scored by.
I mean, O'Reilly started at left back against Salford. Would he be so much worse than Nunes at right back? I don't know. Maybe Pep thinks it's unfair to put him in there,
Yeah,
but
maybe that's it.
I
Well, I'm
was
not sure that argument stands for McAtee, really. He's been
no,
around the block. He's played 2 seasons at Sheffield United. Like,
yeah, yeah, and also I'm not sure either of them would want that argument.
yeah,
I think they reserve the right to say, I know you think it's unfair, but I want to play. I think I can play. And, let me prove you right. Let me, play and show that I wasn't ready to come in or whatever. But if I prove you wrong, then it works for both of us. But yeah, I think they will both end up staying.
there we go. So it's Gonzalez or
I
or
think
nothing,
so.
probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Cambiasso not one for this window. And I mean it's been a busy window, hasn't it?
Yeah,
So but it feels like the fans really, really want a midfield signing today, and I think the team could do with one. But like I say, there are just those slight kind of reservations that mean they might not do it. I think they will, but um, yeah, they're not going all out.
yeah, yeah. They're not breaking it back to make
Yeah.
it. As ever, time will tell, and as ever, the best place to keep up with all the transfer latest is from my esteemed colleague here, and on the MEN's website and all our social channels. That's about it for today. I think we've got deadline day work to get on with,
Yes.
calls to make. So we shall catch up with you all again soon ahead of the FA Cup tie with Leighton Orient. Thanks very much.